Chico de Manuel Show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're gonna start today with me rolling a blunt, which shouldn't be that big of a deal. Done it many times before. I'm not gonna be smoking in here, unfortunately, but that's more your problem. It's not mine. Um, yeah. What needs to go now is all these sexualities. Like when I was doing some prep work for this episode, like I found like 5 or 6 articles like in the forefront of the pool that I use to like find my articles and shit that I'm gonna comment on. But it was just like back to back to back to back. And I'm just like, dude, I don't remember ever being this many sexualities. And most of them are stupid. Most of them are some stupid nitpick, heavily scrutinized as like it's so specific. Its specificity almost kind of guarantees that like probably 0.0001% of the population is even that, if that many. Like it's so fringe and niche, like it's almost not even worth the categorization. And where do they get these names from? Like, most words have an etymology. Like you can look up the etymology for like the word paranoia or something like that. Like you can see how that word developed, like its Latin roots and all this shit. Like what the fuck is a phrasexual? What is an abrosexual? What the fuck is that? Like, at what point is this shit not just something that some secret guild of lunatics, like buried out in some type of underground tunnel, or they like got some type of Doctor Evil kind of lair, like inside a volcano or some shit, a place where nobody would reasonably look or even give a fuck about, you know? And they just like come up with this shit on some like Illuminati type shit. Like this ain't nobody uses these words. You have never in your life heard somebody say, "Hello, my name's Jeffrey. I'm an abrosexual." You've never heard that shit ever. Even the weirdest of like these activists, these trans activists or whatever, none of them espouse that shit. And I think the biggest reason, not because they not behind it, is because they don't know what that is, because it's completely arbitrary. It's some shit they've made up. It's like I got a bunch of them here. We gonna let's start with this one. A gynosexual, what it means and how to tell if it describes you. Okay, so just to touch on the whole how to tell part now, as far as I used to know, like it was three. You was straight, you was gay, or you was bi. Like it's a somewhat of a binary system there. And it didn't take much to figure out where you fell within them three. It was pretty simple. You either like one or the other or both. Like if you're a man who likes men, you're gay. If you're a woman who likes women, you're gay. If you're a man or a woman that likes the opposite, shout out to the binary system again, then you're straight. And if you like both, then you're bi. How can you have a bisexual in a non-binary system? Like, how is bisexual even a thing if it's multiple sexualities and multiple genders? You would just be two sexual. It's not bisexual. You'll be double sexual. But how can you be bisexual in an arena where there is more than two things to select from? If you get paid every 2 weeks, that's called bi-weekly. You know, that's not by accident. Like I said, these words you're using are made up. They don't have any roots in the history of language, spoken word. Like it's gobbledygook. It's nonsense. So we got a bunch of them here. I've already been running my mouth for what feels like longer than 4 minutes, but that's how long it's been. So let's dip into this whole gynosexual shit, what it means and how to tell if it's you. Because, if you can't tell whether you like men, women, or both, then, you need articles like this to guide you. So as you can see, we got this brightly colored picture of what I'm assuming is like, I don't know their genders. They could be men for all I know. But they're like two women and they're like touching noses on some Eskimo shit. They both got these futuristic ass Hunger Games haircuts and shit. and they appear to be enamored with one another. So I mean, that's nice and all. That's a good thing, I guess. You know, it's fun. It's cool to be enamored with people. Sexuality is a here we go. Like I said, here we go with this cinematic histrionic intro. Sexuality is a complex aspect of human identity and has been a heated topic of mainstream discourse for decades, especially since there is no one way to express it. Influenced by a variety of factors, including biology, psychology, personal experiences, affirmations, and culture, sexuality is manifested in a multitude of ways. The sexuality spectrum encompasses various orientations and preferences that stretch far beyond the traditional gay, straight, bisexual, or pansexual. Now, see, now they're saying that being gay, straight, or bisexual is traditional. When, like, I would argue that traditionally they're straight. Like, there is no gay and bisexual in a traditional sense. Like, men fucking men and women fucking women was not the mainstream accepted thing ever. So like that's the new kid on the block. So to say that being gay or bisexual or pansexual, that I don't even know how that got in there. Pansexual, that's not no. Like pansexual should mean you're a person that likes to fuck bread. That's what pansexual should mean, but it doesn't. You know, and I don't think there's nothing traditional about a pansexual. Hell, half motherfuckers don't even know what a wouldn't even have known what a pansexual is had you not told them first. Like you'd have to tell them. Like I guarantee you, 5 years ago, if you'd have walked around asking people, "Hey, what's a pansexual?" People are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like a chef? Like I don't know. Like what do you mean? What's a pansexual? So like that shit's definitely not tradition. These should be the last people talking about tradition because they hate every tradition that's in place. So they shouldn't even tradition should be completely off the table for them. What the fuck do they know about tradition besides they hate it? One such orientation that is not commonly discussed is gynosexuality, derived from the Greek word, okay, there we go, gynaika, meaning women. The prefix gyno implies that a gynosexual is attracted to anyone who identifies as female, as feminine looking, or exhibits feminine characteristics. While a relatively new concept, it is important to understand and acknowledge this orientation as a valid expression of human sexuality. This article will break down what gynosexuality means, and you will soon be able to tell whether it describes you. Okay, so the term for these cross-dressing men is called autogynophiliac. So that checks out. Gyne can mean woman, the prefix gyno, auto, which means oneself, autogynophiliac. You have is when a man have a fetish of seeing himself as a woman. That turns him on. Autogynophilia. So yeah, that checks out. Okay, so you're a gynophiliac. Let's see what this means and then bounce over to one of the many other ones. What the fuck is that? What the fuck is this dude? Like, what is this, man? I almost got disrespectful. Like, what is this? That's a human. I'm not gonna call him a thing. That was my first impulse, but that, the fuck is that, bro? Oh no. A gynosexual is a person that finds a female anatomy such as breasts, feminine characteristics, and femininity behaviors and mannerisms, blah, blah, to be sexually attractive. While lesbians and straight men fit this description to a T, the term gynosexual encompasses many more than just that. This is primarily because the object of sexual attraction of a gynosexual, although feminine, does not have to be female. Okay, so it's a person that finds female anatomy attractive. And they say lesbians and straight men fit this description to a T. Okay. All right. Well, let's move on. I think we got the gist of that. So you can't even really if the person doesn't have to be female, then I don't think that falls in the realm of straight because like straight men anyways fuck females, not things that look like females. Like it's females. So any derivative from that kind of derives from that label. You can't be a straight person and not exclusively deal with women. Same for women. You can't be a straight woman if you fucking rug munching on the weekends. Like kind of defeats the purpose of using that word to describe it if you just gonna plug in your personal interpretation of it, you know. We got an abrosexual here now. This one took her 30 years to realize, according to this headline. Took me 30 years to realize. So, like, what the fuck? Like, how so if you're 30 years old, I'm assuming, because that girl doesn't look a day over 60, or like 50 even. Like, why are you on a sexuality quest in like your childhood? Like, why is that shit something you're worried about? It did not take you 30 years to realize you are grandiose in that description. Like, I call bullshit. No fucking way. You've been walking around spending your entire life wondering who you like to fuck. And if so, that's bizarre. That's bizarre. That's weird, and you shouldn't have done that. Let's see how much garbage I got to read through to get to the. When did you decide this? Is this even a label? I've never heard of it. I support you, obviously, but this doesn't sound real. This is a quote. Just some of the words that greeted me when I came out as abrosexual to a close friend back in 2020. Needless to say, we're not friends anymore. I wonder why the fuck that happened. For those of you who don't know what abrosexuality is, in a layperson's terms, it simply means when someone's sexual identity fluctuates and changes. Ah, so profound. That's such groundbreaking insight that I didn't previously have and didn't previously know I needed. So now you can just be someone whose sexual identity fluctuates and changes, also known as a mentally ill person, because sexual identities don't fluctuate and change. Not in what I believe the sense that you're describing it as. Blah blah. I read and reread the text and dismissiveness of the message cutting deeper each time. Here I was sharing my identity with someone I trusted, only for them to scoff at my words. Although the easy defense is that you can't determine someone's tone from a text message, I think it's clear the vibe was far from supportive. It was judgmental and immediately doubtful. Can't blame them. Can't say I blame them. Let's bounce over here. What it means to be phrasexual. Everything you need to know. So the first thing that catches my mind, I didn't know I needed to know about this shit. Why did I need to know about this? What area of my life was lacking and suffering because I didn't know what the fuck a phrasexual was. Now, if I had to take a guess, a phrasexual, like I really don't even like I don't know. Part of me wants to be funny and say it's a person who's attracted by being able attracted to their capability to save someone's life, but I think that's a bit gratuitous and it's obviously not that. But like I don't know. I think it's like when you attracted to somebody who's questioning their sexual preference. That's what my guess is gonna be. Is when you have an attraction to a person who's unsure of their sexual identity. So as you can see, we got this old George Clooney Shooter McGavin looking ass motherfucker here with way too much whiskey in that glass. He's already fucked up. He's probably gonna essay that woman. I hope not. But that's the image that they paint men with nowadays. Like if that guy's drinking at a bar with a woman, yeah, she's toast. Medically reviewed by Monica Johnson, PSYD, whatever the fuck that is. Phrase sexuality, also known as ignotus sexuality. See, now we even got, if you don't want to call it phrase sexuality, you can call it ignotus sexuality, man. The possibilities are endless with this shit. It's a sexual identity in which people experience a strong attraction to strangers and less attraction to people they know well. So, like, strangers, as in, like, people, like, what if you just attracted to strange women? So you a hetero phrase sexual? Like, I've got questions. How the fuck just doesn't make sense. So like strangers, regardless of the person. So if you just the type of person you just want to have sex with people you don't know, the more time you spend with somebody, the less you become attracted to them based on your familiarity with that person. Like you become familiar with this person, and as a result, your familiarity results in you being not attracted to them. Nah, you just sound like a broken person. Like if that's your criteria for like meeting people and dealing with them is like, oh, well, the longer I'm around you, the less I. That's not phrase sexual. That's psychopathic. That's what that is. The fuck is a phrase sexual? Stupid. What else I got here? Let me see. Where am I at? Yeah, could wrap it up with this shit. I'm a bisexual woman married to a man. People questioning my sexuality caused me to come out queer instead. So you a bisexual woman married to a man, but other people's curiosity about whatever shit you had going on caused you to come out as queer? I guess this is the girl, the author, Becky Duffy. Okay. So yeah, this is Becky Duffy. Like she's a decent looking white chick. I think she's a chick. I don't know. She could be a man. I don't even know what a woman is. So we got some bullet points here. I dated men and women as a young adult and identified as bisexual. People started questioning my bisexuality when I married my husband. I decided to come out as queer instead. I grew up in a home where I was frequently told it was okay to be gay, so I never had a formal coming out. I simply brought my first girlfriend home. Of course, it confused my family, who had known me as a boy crazy teenager, but the surprise quickly faded, and I continued to date men and women as a young adult. Okay. But in 2014, I met my now husband, who immediately accepted my bisexuality. I felt so content because I could express my sexuality while being comfortable in my relationship. People outside my relationship, though, criticized me for identifying as bisexual but choosing to settle down with the man. I vividly remember the first time I was told I didn't count as a queer person. I play rugby, which intersects with the queer community. What the fuck? Years ago, on the sidelines of the game, my teammates were trying to guess who was queer. I told them I was bisexual, and I'll never forget their reactions. You don't count, one said. Yeah, you picked the side, said another, referring to my husband. Coming from queer people, this felt like an irrefutable truth, and it meant I wasn't part of the LGBTQ community. I carried that heavy weight with me for a long time. It also didn't help when people asked if I still had to tell people I was bisexual because I was married now. What the fuck does any of this matter? First of all, nobody was having that conversation on the sidelines of a rugby game. Hey guys, hey, you want to guess who's queer? Who's queer over here? You don't count. You married a husband. You can't be queer. No, no, people don't talk like that, man. I swear they don't. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm incredulous. Like, nobody fucking talks like that. Y'all supposed to be over here playing rugby and shit. And as usual, if this story is true with these people, they cannot help but steer the conversation toward their sexuality. It's very important for you to know who these people fuck. You can't even play a goddamn game of rugby without getting drugged into this bullshit. Hi, you guys want to take a second to guess who's queer? No, nigga, I'm trying to score another try. That's what I'm trying to do. All this queer talk, nigga. Somebody's about to get hoisted in the air in a couple minutes. Like, fuck that bullshit you talking about. Nobody thinking about this shit during no rugby game, man. My point being, in all this, is that it's all stupid. It's not real. All these increasingly different distinguishments between all these subcategories, man. It's just a way of trying to change the language, erase the previous culture, and tell you it's traditional, which is true, and imply that it's problematic also as a result. Because things just need to change. It's like, yeah, well, some things do, but not all things. Especially when you now got 100 words to describe minor ass differences among arbitrary sexual preferences, you fucking weirdos. All right. What we got here is courtesy of Fox News about this city in California who's decided to ban pride flags. I talked about this maybe like almost 30 episodes ago when they did that shit closer to home in Hamtramck. Hamtramck decided to ban the pride flags. I believe it was not Highland Park. It was Hamtramck. They decided that they didn't want pride flags being strewn all over businesses and storefronts and shit in their neighborhood. And they got subsequently called, uh, accused of bigotry and became transphobe. And now they're treading on human rights, which is nothing. Like, or saying trans rights is human rights, which is a thoughtless, meaningless trope. It doesn't mean anything. At this point, it's just like it's a platitude that's been used ad nauseum. Like, it's enough. So we got a little video here. It's just a short video courtesy of Fox News. Let's play that shit. I said, let's play that shit.
I'm not very happy with the current situation where we have the LGBTQ community in search for the Springfield Public School Board to adopt a resolution that they presented to the Board of Education about 11 months ago. And in that time, we've board members have talked about it here in Springfield, and we just feel at this point that we're comfortable with where we are right now, that there's really no need to have a resolution to accept gay, queer students within our school system. And the reason for that, Josh, is that we do accept all of our students. We have a couple of members that have actually attacked board members, specifically me, of course. And I have about 16 different names that I called by these members, and I've been accused of racist statements and things of this nature. And it was time to set the record straight. The record is that, look, you're welcome to your opinion, but what you need to do is stop coming to the board with your activism, is what I called it. It's activism to me when you continuously come and you make these requests. And even if we were to take up this resolution and say we adopted it, what would happen? It would just be the beginning. And that's what I consider activists. When you sit there and you want to badger the Board of Education, prevent us from doing our job, and actually continuously to call us by name, names of racist, bigot, white supremacist, hateful, transphobic, trans-erasing, those type of things. It has nothing to do with that. These are adults, and adults need to understand, if you want to select that way of life, then you're more than entitled to do that. But why we have children within our care, and we have a mission to be able to teach these kids the basic skills, that's all we need to be doing within our school system, period. Anything else is just a distraction.
Hard to disagree with that. Yeah, I mean, where's the argument against this? Like, you're arguing that these people are trying to inculcate a whole generation of children to be fucking gay. And it puts you in a position of where, like, if you not, like, you could be all right with gayness, gay people, all that shit, but if you not okay with these people trying to install that shit into your kids, like with or without your consent, like if you're not okay with that shit, then that's portrayed as like you being anti-gay. Like you can't be pro-gay and not support the inculcation of your children, the indoctrination and all that shit. If you're not on board with every single agenda these motherfuckers put forward, then you might as well be against it. And that's how they fucking manipulate the language. That's how they that's how they articulate some type of force. Oh, they're anti this, they're anti that, and blah blah blah. It's like this. What even is this that you're talking about? What is this anti-gay shit? What does anti-gay mean? Like, what is the final embodiment? Like, how can I look at something and conclusively say that's anti-gay? Like, how against gay does it have to be considered anti? What if it's not against gay? What if it's just not for it? Like, I'm not like I can not support something. Like, I don't have to hate gay people to just not say I don't want this shit in front of my children. Like, that doesn't indicate hate. It's actually a sign of love to like want to give your kids and other people's children. It's not just, this is a collective village type thing. You want to give children an opportunity to grow up without all that shit in front of their face. That shit is not, it's destructive for people of that age. And you don't oftentimes see the end result till years down the line when these people are adults and they've started to set into some of these ways or they've been tricked into getting their genitals mutilated or cut the fuck off or something like that, and now it's too late. You know, and it's fucked up when you gotta try to find solutions at the now it's too late point, especially when you watched all the opportunities to intervene just pass you right on by. It's like, why did it have to come to this? It didn't. But like shit, what the fuck we allowed to happen? When you see about this shit, when the awareness is getting out there and you know about it and you don't speak up against it, that's fucked up. With the article here, voters, oh yeah, courtesy of Fox News, by the way. Voters in California's conservative Huntington Beach approved a measure that will restrict all non-government flags from being flown on city property, prompting backlash from LGBTQ activists. So, see, I actually worded this wrong. So I said they banned pride flags. They actually didn't specifically ban pride flags like Hamtramck did. Hamtramck said, we don't want pride flags. This California city bans non-government flags, which a pride flag happens to be one of, but it's clear that it's important to distinguish that it's not saying you can't fly pride flags, it's saying you can't fly flags that are not government flags. And pride flags just happens to be one of them. So that's an important distinction to make. And of course, when you do something like that, that's not even directly aimed. Like, it's a lot of flags that don't fall under the non-government flag. But these LGBTQ people are born victims, so of course they got to look for the opportunity to be offended somewhere. You can't just take an action that they don't get to somehow find offensive. It's their job. Part of being an activist is being offended by something. Like, if you just walking around not upset, what kind of activism is that? That's passivism. Measure B, authored by Huntington Beach City Councilman Pat Burns, passed with more than half of the city's vote, according to the latest tally on the country's registrar website. This measure, for which voters cast their ballots on Super Tuesday, will prohibit breast cancer awareness, pride, Confederate, and all other non-U.S. flags on city property. Burns told Fox News Digital in an interview that the measure was not meant to be discriminatory against any group, but to encourage residents to unite under a common American identity. Most of the backlash Burns said he has received has been from LGBTQ advocates. Just like I said, I agree when they say that the shit is not meant to be discriminatory, because if it was, they would have just hit the pride flags in particular. You can't fly a Confederate flag. You can't even fly a fucking breast cancer awareness flag. You can't even do that. Like the little pink ribbon shit. If it's a non-U.S. flag, we not having that shit. And they said most of the backlashes come from trans people, trans and LGBTQ activists and shit, because it's their job to be offended. How is this not a textbook example? This guy named Mr. Grooms used to tell me all the time, you shoot into a pack of wolves, the one you hit in the ass yells the loudest. When you shoot into the pack of wolves resembling victimhood, even if you don't victimize them, like you did something that affected them to some degree, you did something that affected a wide range of people, but now suddenly you're suffering more than all the other people. What about the Confederate supporters, the people who want to fly their Confederate flags, huh? What about the breast cancer awareness people? What about the fucking veterans, POW, all that kind of shit? Like, what about all those people? I guess they just don't matter as much as you, huh? This is just another example of fucking just genocidal mayhem. Oh, it's another example of fucking genocidal mayhem. Because people just want us to be unite as Americans and not be divided as all these sub groups and shit. Unbelievable. Um, Quote, I'm against the identity politics. I think it's divisive, Burns said Friday. I think it's demeaning, to be honest, that flag that I find is so insulting to LB. Wait, that I think it's demeaning, to be honest. That flag that I find is so insulting to LGBTQ. And I know that they support it, but in my mind, it's demeaning that they need some kind of special recognition to feel like they're part of our community. People are equal, and those kind of things are divisive. Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Like, it's definitely divisive when, you play identity politics too much. Like to some degree, identity politics exists because it has a purpose. Like it's just heavily, it's OP. Like identity politics don't need to factor in as much as it does. But especially on the left, the only thing that matters is what fucking racial group you part of. Like who cares what you did if you're not a black, gay, lesbian, handicapped, ageist, fucking autistic, goddamn breast cancer survivor. If you're not all those things, what difference does it make? How can we market you? I can't market a motherfucker that's just got like regular average motherfucker problems. You know, you're not marketable. And that's all these people care about. It's not like your actual problem is actually on the agenda, on their agenda of things to solve. It's just like, how can I market your victimhood to maintain or achieve power and status? 100% that's what it is. I guarantee it. The city has previously flown the rainbow flag during Pride Month over the last 2 years, Burns said. He added it had not been a major part of the city's aesthetics prior to the measure. Only the U.S. flag, the state of California flag, the county of Orange flag, the city of Huntington Beach flag, the PO, the prisoner of war, okay, bang. The 6 armed forces flags and the Olympic flag during the Summer Olympic Games can be mounted on city property under the new measure. Like, where all the other flags that exist that just aren't them, it's a real hard sell to say that shit is discriminatory in the context that they want to say. Of course, it's discriminatory. Yeah, if you go to the supermarket, you go to the grocery store, and you buy jumbo eggs as opposed to large eggs, you've discriminated against large eggs. But it's not to spite large eggs; it's because you just fucking wanted bigger eggs. And jumbo is bigger than large. So if your criteria for purchasing eggs is based on size, what the fuck? End of discussion. It's not because you got some type of systemic racism built in against these fucking eggs. It's just like, no, for what? For my preference, I want the largest egg possible. Therefore, I pick jumbo. It's discrimination, but it's not harmful. No one loses as a result of this discrimination. So, like I said, if this ain't cut and dried, straight up proof that these motherfuckers are just diaper wielding crybabies running around just waiting for the next opportunity to holler and be offended and bitch and moan about some benign ass, not even really serious shit, then I mean, I don't know what else is. Like, how many examples do you need before you willing to concede that like it's happening? Should just take this, honestly. But I get it, man. Sometimes you got to get the same lesson beat into your head 14, 15, 16 times before you be willing to entertain that perhaps you are not as wise and clairvoyant as you thought you were. Perhaps your feeble ass mind is fallible and subject to being incorrect, even when it really felt like you were right. Like, no, it can happen to you, boss. Happens all the time, day in and day out. Get with the program. Get out of the delusion. This nobody gives a fuck, and people only gonna take so much before you experience some kind of pushback. And this, my friend, is the pushback. Alrighty, should we get here? Yeah. So to continue, one of the things that is a common talking point amongst feminists and these alleged strong, independent women or whatnot, who generally refer to them being able to handle their basic human adult responsibilities without any assistance, which I guess more power to you, but it's a weird flex, but okay. Anywho, we got an article here, courtesy of who the fuck is this? Who am I even looking at here? Oh yeah, Fortune. The gender pay gap actually increases as women climb the corporate ladder. So these are women already saying that they're not being paid as much as men to do the same job, which, there's some truth to that. If we're gonna talk about why, then we can talk about why there's truth to it. But you know, this is only like a 2 minute article. We're just gonna breeze through it. I don't really have a first take on it because it's always something. Like the gender pay gap is always gonna increase. The gender pay gap will never go down because women are not really willing to do the things that would naturally make that pay gap decrease on its own. But let's fucking read this article. It says the 2 minute read, so shouldn't take forever. We got a picture of some woman with this real explanatory shit, like she's woman splaining something to this man who's blurred out in this photo because obviously she's the focus. Like he's just there to show the woman sticking it to the man. That's what that's about. So let's see. This ain't that much. I'm just read through this. Got a couple videos on the show. Da 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 da. Good morning. Buenos dias. Women executives at the world's biggest companies have overcome countless challenges to climb to the top, including workplace harassment, dropping blunts in the middle of the sentence, including workplace harassment, gender based prejudices, and a lack of promotions, but they can't seem to overcome the gender pay gap. Women workers on average make 83 cents on the dollar compared to men, according to the new 2024 Gender Pay Gap report by PayScale, a compensation data software and services provider. But as they climb the corporate ladder, it turns out that the pay gap actually increases. Women managers and supervisors earn 83 cents, directors make 82 cents, and executives make only 72 cents on the dollar. And I'm assuming they saying like this is compared to to men. So the male soup manager and supervisor, you know, earns a dollar for every 83 cents. Male directors earn a dollar for every 82 cents, and executives make a dollar for every 72 cents that a woman makes. That's what I'm assuming they're saying. There are several factors that go into the gender pay gap at all career levels, including work disruptions like maternity leave, caring for children, and entering the workforce at a lower wage. Quote, sometimes it's to do with the fact that their initial salary as they started their career may have been impacted by bias or failure to negotiate. Ruth Thomas, pay equity strategist at PayScale, tells Fortune. And they continue to carry that with them as they go through their career. But the gap at the executive level also has something to do with the gendered natures of the top roles in the C suite. Quote, you have functions, for example, such as marketing and HR that are typically female gendered historically, says Thomas. We will see in our market data it's not uncommon to see the head of marketing pay to be very different from, say, the head of finance pay. As for the salaries of average women workers outside the C suite, they might want to think about changing jobs if they want to start earning more money. Women who are looking to change jobs within the 6 months earn 84 cents on the dollar compared to women who are staying put. They earn 80 cents on the dollar. What we see is that employer loyalty backfires on women and actually exacerbates the pay gap, says Thomas. So women who are potentially more mobile, more willing to consider other job opportunities, or who have moved and are ready to move again during the Great Resignation have probably benefited from the wage inflation that occurred during that period. Not everyone is free to constantly look for work elsewhere, however. Some women may be staying at their company for the healthcare benefits or flexible working schedules, a path that offers fewer opportunities for career advancement. But across the board, women are more likely to stagnate in their careers and stay longer in low level roles. All right, let's examine this sentence right here. But across the board, women are more likely to stagnate and stay longer in low level roles. Now, just to be a little petty for a second, here we go. Ooh. Definition of stagnate: to cease developing, become inactive or dull, of water or air, cease flow or to move or to become stagnant. Okay, so we understand that. There's that. Get out of here. Okay, so let me just finish because I want to keep that highlighted in case I forget because this is the last paragraph right here. We see that women, and in particular women from all minority groups, are more likely to be individual contributors than men are right out of college. Amy Stewart, associate director of content and editorial at PayScale, told Fortune. And then as they age, men are going to be promoted into managerial director and executive roles at a higher volume than women are. So, like I said, one thing these people like to do is they don't like to talk about the why. And like this sentence, across the board, women are more likely to stagnate in their careers and stay longer in low level roles. Then, like, what's the fucking confusion here? If you're gonna sit here and keep the same job that pays you the same much with lesser room for advancement, how are you gonna say, well, all the men are making more money because they keep getting promoted? Well, yeah. Well, yeah. These women are talking like they don't have to compete with men for these jobs. They say, well, the competition exists amongst men. Like the lady on this other shit. I think I might have deleted that. I had a bit where I was just talking about this lady was on Jesse Lee Peterson and she was talking about how the fucking men in this homosocial bonding or some homeosocial bonding or something like that. And basically saying like men tend to be more competitive against men, which it wasn't gender specific. Like it's just about how people it studies the relationships amongst people, not just men. But when she was explaining it, that was her explanation for why men got this because men are just more naturally competitive amongst each other, and women shouldn't have to deal with that shit if they compete with men. If women compete with men, they should, they shouldn't have to compete at the same level that men compete at. Men should have to dumb down their competition level so women stand a fucking chance. So with that being said, I found a couple clips. I found one with my dude Jordan Peterson here. He was interviewing with this one chick. I forget her name. She's actually did really good in the interview to be like as biased as she was, but she was still a pretty good interviewer. But here we go. So I'm gonna pull this up, get the ball rolling on this shit. You'll hear the audio before you see it, maybe. Let's see, can I? All right, boom. Here we go, guys.
So that's my idea of the patriarchy, which is a system of male dominance of society.
Yeah, but that's not my sense of the patriarchy.
So what's yours?
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated?
The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
Very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
But I could say equally well that most rape victims are women. Terrible things happen to people of both sexes.
And you could say that with perfect utility, but that doesn't provide any evidence for the existence of a male-dominated patriarchy. Well, it just means that terrible things happen to both genders, which they certainly do.
But there are almost no women who rape men, for example. So that
there are almost no women who rape men. Now, can we think about that? Now, if you just had to just spitball out the top of your head, since you love to talk about things that happen, so there aren't a lot of men out here getting raped by women. Why is that? Think about it. No. Why aren't there women out there raping men? Like, why is there less women raping men than there are men raping women? Any guesses? I don't know. My first guess would be like, one, women don't have penises. So it's kind of hard for a woman to force herself inside a man when there's nothing of her to force. Second of all, women are physically inferior to men. So good luck finding a man who's just going to sit back and let himself be raped by a woman. Hell, men can't even stop men from raping them. Per se, in prisons and shit. Like, if a guy wants to rape you and you're not willing to die, you're pretty much fucked. No pun intended. So, like, the fuck she talking about? Almost no men get raped by women. Duh. That's like saying no men suffer from postpartum syndrome. Like, duh. They don't have fucking children. They don't bear children. Stupid ass statement.
That is an asymmetry there in sexual violence.
Well, yes, there's an asymmetry in all sorts of places, but that doesn't mean that Western culture is a male-dominated patriarchy. The fact that there are asymmetries has nothing to do with your basic argument.
No, but you might equally...
This is a trope that people just accept. Western society is a male-dominated patriarchy. It's like, no, it's not. That's not true. And even if it has a patriarchal structure to some degree, the fundamental basis of that structure is not power, it's competence. That's why our society works. It's only when a structure degenerates into tyranny that the fundamental relationships between people become dependent on power. It's not power. If you hire a plumber who's likely to be male. It's not because there's roving bands of tyrannical plumbers forcing you to make that choice. And it's the case with almost every interaction that you have at the face of our culture. You're dealing with people who are offering a service of one form or another, who are usually part of the broad middle class, and who offer, and what you're looking for is the person who can offer the best service, and you can find it. It's not a consequence of being dominated by anything that's tyrannical. And then again, our culture, our Western culture, which is by no means perfect, and certainly has tyrannical elements like all cultures do, is the least tyrannical society that's ever been produced, and certainly the least tyrannical society that exists now. This whole patriarchy thing, I think you have no idea how pernicious and dangerous it is.
Well, no, I don't. I really don't. Go on.
Throughout history have fundamentally cooperated to push back against the absolute catastrophe of existence. A terrible death rate, the probability of chronic starvation, early death, disease, the difficulty of raising children with all the death that was associated with that. And to look backwards in time and say, well, basically what happened was men took the upper hand and persecuted women in this tyrannical patriarchy is an absolutely dreadful misreading of history. It's a terrible thing to teach young women, and it's a horrible thing to inflict upon men.
Sure enough. Okay. Just another little clip to highlight, that woman was left utterly speechless. Like she had nothing of any substance to combat that with. She's just like, well, yeah, I mean, but, men own everything and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, there might be a small percentage of men who are at the top, who prosper, who have all this shit. But you got to understand, like, just because these men occupy the top, it's not like a zero sum where it's like, oh, well, if all men occupy the top, then there are no men occupying the bottom. That's just not true. Like a chick could be walking up the street with a backpack on. Nothing in the backpack, just wearing an empty backpack. Motherfuckers will offer her rides. Motherfuckers will try to help her. If it's me, I have to ask. I got to be sitting there hitchhiking. I got to have a story. I got to have all this. Motherfuckers want to know shit. I'm not afforded that same, and we can talk about why. The simple reason is I'm a guy, she's a chick. Women are more valuable in that sense. Like a woman's existence, her presence, it does more on a different level than what a man's presence does. Like, men have an innate desire to like help, nurture, provide, protect, all that kind of shit. So just back real quick on the how these motherfuckers love to talk about that, but don't like to talk about why something is. Does that something is? We got a clip here of Rachel Maddow. She's on some type of talk show. I'm sure you know who Rachel Maddow is, leftist pundit. Let's check this out. Hang on. Oh, doesn't work that way. Okay.
Cents on the dollar for what men make. So if women don't make less than men?
Actually, if you start looking at the numbers, Rachel,
so
there are lots of reasons for that.
Oh, wait. Well, don't tell me the reasons are. Do women make less than men for doing the same work?
No, because...
Wow.
Well,
what does she say? Don't tell me the reasons. Just tell me that it happens. Like, is that not what I just said? She's not interested in why women get paid less than men for doing the same work, allegedly. She's not interested in that. She just wants to know that it's happening. The fact that it's happening is reprehensible and everything needs to be changed.
Okay,
well, for example, men work an average of 44 hours a week. Women work 41 hours a week. Men go into professions like engineering, science, and math that earn more. Women want more flexible professions.
Listen, this is not a math is hard
No. Yes, it is, actually.
No, it isn't.
Listen, this is not a math is hard conversation. What the fuck is a math is hard conversation? What are you talking about? This is not a math is hard conversation? Oh, what? You mean you don't want to know the reasons why? You don't want to understand, like, why something happens. Like, you don't care. You verily disinterested in why something happens. This ain't a math is hard conversation. Who said anything about math? You said men work longer. They take different jobs. What does got to do with math is hard? Fuck are you talking about, Maddow?
Men are making 77 cents on the dollar for what men are making. So
but that's not true. If so, every
let Rachel make her point.
Every greedy businessman in America would hire only women, save 25%, and be hugely profitable. And I love how passionate you are. I wish you were as right about what you're saying as you are passionate about it. I really do.
That's
For
really
example,
condescending.
That's really condescending. That's really condescending. That's really condescending. No, it's not. It's true. Dude made a dude related to you. I wish you was as passionate as you were correct. If you had that level of passion and was on the right side with it, something good could become of that. But you don't. Because you just cannot wait to run your fucking mouth about some shit. You just want to talk about the fact that it is, but as soon as he explains why, you have no argument. You say it's not a math is hard conversation. Like, if you was to say he has to argue for why the pay gap exists, you don't have anything to shoot down that argument. That argument destroys you. You don't have anything to counter that shit with. You just sitting there bumbling, stumbling, stammering fool. Look, math isn't hard. Shut up, man. The pay gap apparently goes up as women get higher, and we don't know why. We don't care why. Just make it go away. Fucking stupid ass solution, if you ask me. Oh shit, man. This is fucking hilarious. So I just came upon this gem of Don Lemon bitching on the internet because 24 hours after he did an interview with Elon Musk, he canceled a deal that he had with Don Lemon. Now, wildly enough, Don Lemon just was recently fired from CNN for just, just incompetence generally, like just being a fucking sap. I've seen a lot of Don Lemon's content, and he's so left. Like, he's so fucking left, man. It's nauseating. Like, we gonna watch this shit in full. But this whole this image he trying to uphold, like, he just this finger wagging, patronizing ass undertone to, like, just what he's doing, what he's saying. Like, I think Don Lemon has lost his fucking mind. Like, seriously, bro. Like, Don Lemon would do anything to get back on TV. He got fired by CNN, then went back to CNN to do an interview about his shit being on X. Like, the questions he was asking, dog, and the little clips they showed on this CNN little soundbite, the clips they showed was so brief, and I'm just, after these clips, I'm like, what did he say? Like, what the fuck did Elon Musk say that was, like, outrageous? Like, why are you asking him these questions? Like, you checking your boss, basically. Dumbass. Let's pull this shit up, bro. This shit was wild as hell. What's going on here? That's the wrong one. Bang. There we go.
Elon Musk tells Don Lemon, quote, contract is canceled, end quote. Now, in a moment, I'm going to speak exclusively with Don Lemon, and he has clips of the nearly hour-and-a-half interview with Musk. Clips like this one that we received from Don's production team.
Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm criticized constantly. I could care less.
Ooh. He said he could care less about your criticism because he gets criticized constantly. Like, true statement. Like, I don't care. I don't care. He's one of the most powerful men alive. He doesn't give a fuck about the opinion of Don Lemon and Don Lemon's fan base, if that's still a thing. Like, the fuck? The hubris of this guy, man.
We're going to have more clips from Lemon's interview with Musk in a moment. In a statement earlier today, Lemon writes in part, quote, there were no restrictions on the interview that he willingly agreed to. We had a good conversation. Clearly, he felt differently. His commitment to a global town square where all questions can be asked and all ideas can be shared seems not to include questions of him from people like me. Now,
what does that mean? What do you mean, people like me? Like, are you referencing your reputation, or are you talking about black people? I've said this shit many times. It fucking peeves the shit out of me when I hear black people say, oh, people that look like me. You know how they are against people that look like me. Fucking lunatic. Just say black people. What What are you dodging by saying people like me? That's purpose. That's deliberately ambiguous. What the fuck does that mean? If LeBron James was to say people like me, would you think he's talking about black people or basketball players? Or fathers? Or people over 6 feet tall? Like, what is people like me? People who wear a size 15 shoe. Like, come on now. That's deliberately vague. And it's stupid.
Now, CNN reached out to X for their comment, and their response is, quote, "We reserve the right to make decisions about our business partnerships. And after careful consideration, X decided not to enter into a commercial partnership with the show." Now, this decision, coming as Musk had, of course, publicly courted Lemon and has repeatedly made a commitment to free speech when he bought Twitter again and again and again.
Now, see, that's the bullshit right there. The whole, his commitment to free speech. Free speech, free speech, free speech. That shit almost won me over. Like, when I heard that shit and then seeing the clips they played, like, I had an impulse to be like, yeah, well, I mean, you do support free speech, but it's like, how is it free speech? Like, you basically tried to shit on him in an interview, and it cost you whatever fucking deal y'all had going on, and now it's a free speech angle? Because you can't do your show on his platform, so now he's trying to censor you? No, he's not trying to censor you. Like, your show can exist, just not there. That's not censorship. That's having standards. That's just having, like, whatever. This is my shit. I can do what the fuck I want. No, there will be no consequences for me banning your punk ass little show. None whatsoever. Ain't a free speech issue.
Well, I think it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech where all, Twitter has become kind of the de facto town square.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant.
I really can't emphasize this enough. We must protect free speech. And free speech only matters, it's only relevant when it's someone you don't like saying something you don't like. It's damn annoying when someone you don't like says something you don't like. That is a sign of a healthy, functioning free speech situation.
Again and again and again.
Now, kudos to the people that found them clips, because, like, if you give this free speech grievance any kind of credibility whatsoever, then it's like, okay, you got a pretty good point. Like, you hear him going on and on saying he's a component of free speech. So, like, we've established that he's a component of free speech, but, like, what the fuck has that got to do with Don Lemon getting his show canceled? Like, okay, he likes free speech and you can't have a show after you interviewed him. It's his platform. It's his. He owns the shit. He could do whatever the fuck he wants, period. If it was your platform, you do the same thing, boss man. Don't front like you wouldn't. Fuck on somewhere.
Again, and remember, Musk's X has over 250 million daily active users. 250 million people on this planet resolve it. Use it. It is the town square. And joining me exclusively out front is Don Lemon. So Don, you do this 90-minute long interview with Musk. You sit down with him. This is the culmination. He had actively courted you to come on one of his tweets. Have you considered doing your show on this platform? Maybe worth a try. Audience is much bigger. It had been public. Then you had reached a deal. I'll talk about that later. Then he texts 24 hours after this 90-minute long interview, which is the first of your show launching. He says, contract is canceled. What happened?
First of all, it's good to see you, Aaron. Thank you for having me on. That's a good question for Elon Musk. Quite frankly, what happened? I don't know. As I said in my statement, I felt...
Just off that opening, that's a question for Elon Musk. No, it's a question for you, Don Lemon. It's quite clearly a question for you. That little pissy, passive-aggressive ass undertone, like you was in the right, like let's just keep watching.
Really good about the interview. I said to him as we were doing the interview, and it was tense at moments, but you've been involved in tense interviews. Yep. I said to him, I think it's good that people see folks like you and I who have different worldviews come together and talk, as he says, have free speech. Free speech is only important when someone you don't like, or I would say someone who doesn't have your same point of view, or someone is, if they're allowed to speak freely and to say their point of view. Apparently that doesn't matter to Elon Musk. It's just for maybe talking points for him or
No, it's definitely talking points for you, Mr. Lemon. Like, to say he doesn't care about that shit, about free speech, because he canceled a deal on your show is a lame ass. That's lame. The fuck? Like, bro, you really think Elon Musk, one of the most powerful men in the world, is sitting around like, you know what, man? I feel like censoring somebody's speech. Where's Don Lemon at? The fuck? Bro, you just got fired from CNN. Like, I bet it felt good to be sitting in that green room again and having your little, quite literal 10, 15 minutes of fame so you could come on here and talk about this stupid shit. Man, Don Lemon is like, he's a theater kid, man. If there ever was one, he's a fucking theater kid.
rhetoric, because it doesn't seem to matter when it's about him, questions about him from people like me.
All right, so when you said that, I wanted to play some of the clips because some of them are illuminating. These are clips that you shared with us. This is
I done seen black people snap on white people for using the phrase, you people. You people could mean anything, but you just assume it means black, and you're probably right to do that. But you get mad at white people for saying you people, but then you can't even identify yourself as what you are. You won't even call yourself black. People like me. People like me. People like me. Fucking idiots.
part of the conversation with Musk where you ask him about hate speech. Here it is.
Check this.
Hate speech on the platform is up. Do you believe that X and you have some responsibility to moderate hate speech on the platform? That you wouldn't have to answer these questions from reporters about the Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Democrats?
I don't have to answer these questions.
The Great Replacement Theory as it relates to Jewish people. Do you think that?
I don't have to answer questions from reporters. Don, the only reason I'm doing this interview is because you're on the X platform and you asked for it. Otherwise, I would not do this interview.
So you don't think? Do you think that you wouldn't get in trouble or you wouldn't be criticized for these things?
I'm
or
criticized
that
constantly. I could care less.
The same clip they showed.
Illuminating in so many ways. Right? I have two things I want to ask you about that, Don. First, the Great Replacement Theory. Right. As you bring it up, he has tweeted a tweet he shared. Increasing illegals boosts Dem voting power, causing them to recruit more. If Dems win President, House, and Senate, they'll grant citizenship to all illegals, and America will become a permanent one-party deep socialist state. Right? He has gone there directly.
I would agree with that.
How much does he stand by these ideas?
Well, he didn't quite seem to understand that he did, originally he did that with Jewish people, sort of a great replacement theory thing.
What do you mean he doesn't understand? You mean he doesn't see it your way? Is that what you mean by he doesn't understand? I don't think there's anything Don Lemon could utter that Elon Musk isn't gonna understand. Like, get the fuck out of here.
That he did with Jewish people, and he got in trouble and he had to go to Auschwitz and answer questions and apologize and go with Ben Shapiro. But he doesn't understand that sort of rhetoric that he talks about, the Great Replacement Theory and migrant invasion. That's what radicalized shooters use in their manifestos. Those exact words.
Relevance.
The people who go and shoot up people, whether they be Latino people who live in Texas or black people who are in a supermarket in Buffalo or Jewish people who are worshiping, those people use the same rhetoric, that they are tropes, that they're either racist for Latinos or black people or for Jewish people. And I wanted to know if he felt any responsibility as someone who has one of the largest social media and information platforms in the world.
250 million people.
Okay, yeah. What do you think? What do you think? He told you exactly how he felt. He said he couldn't care less. You tell these motherfuckers the truth and it just bewildered. The fact that somebody would just brutally honest, the fact that they would not put up a facade for your benefit is unbelievable to these fucking people. If you're sitting there like, no, I get criticized all the time. I couldn't care less. So you want to get in trouble. You want me to cancel you. I don't care. Go ahead, cancel me. Start sparking and looting. shit's going off, man. These people, they can't handle the truth. They don't live in a world where truth is valued. They live in a world where their immediate current impulse and whatever narrative that they on some Machiavellian shit, like whatever they got to say to be full of shit is what they gonna do. Like that's their aim is to be full of shit while seeming like they're not full of shit. That's what George Carlin said about Bill Clinton. He was like, he'd tell you up front, like, hey, I'm full of shit. And people would be like, well, at least he's honest about being full of shit. It's crazy.
Quarter billion people. I think it's 455 or 500 million users a week. And it doesn't seem that he feels that he has any responsibility with that because he seemed really averse to facts.
Here's another clip. You talked about ketamine in this particular instance, something that he has discussed before. Here he is.
You talk about your ketamine use and depression. You also have said, and
the reason I should say, the reason I mentioned the ketamine prescription on the X platform was because I thought maybe this is something that could help other people. That's why I mentioned it. Obviously, I'm not a doctor, but I would say if someone has depression issues, they should consider talking to their doctor about ketamine instead of SSRIs.
Very civil conversation, but that is where it got very personal.
Well, it got personal, but I didn't put that out there. He has spoken very freely about his
word game. Okay, so yeah, you may not have put it out there in general. Like you may just because he's mentioned it before, like at some point, that doesn't mean it's just fair game to talk about. Well, you said it on Twitter, so I thought I could just bring it up on this interview. Like, no, that's not putting it out there. Like, well, he put it out there, yeah, but that was a while ago. That shit ain't fresh. It ain't like he just said that shit last week. You brought this shit back up right here, right now, in this interview. Like, if I just trust me, if I really just had 90 minutes to just burn through, I wouldn't burn it watching this interview. I could already see how y'all trying to frame this shit. I don't have 90 minutes to waste on leftist bullshit. Like, I just don't. If I'm backed into a corner somehow or some motherfucking people in ski masks grab me, put a gun in my head, and tell me I'm going to watch the interview and have a favorable opinion on it, then I guess I just have to get killed by the people who kidnapped me. I'm not doing it. Fuck it. It's a lot of red flags in this shit.
Use of those are prescription drugs, but about his use of ketamine, I would not have brought it up.
On X, he posted it.
He posted it, and so I would not have brought it up because that's someone's personal information. So I asked him about it. Also, it's no secret his drug use, or alleged drug use, I should say, has been extensively written about it by very credible news organizations like the Wall Street Journal. And I asked him that, and he said, "Listen, I have not read the Wall Street Journal. I don't read the Wall Street Journal. If I don't have time to read about everything that people write about me, I would never get anything done." But also, we remember on Joe Rogan, he took a puff of marijuana, right? And he said it was just a joke and I only took one puff. Elon Musk is responsible for satellites, for Starlink. He's responsible for Tesla. He's responsible for a number of different companies in the stock market.
Yep.
And I think that it is important for people to understand his mindset, whether he's using drugs legally or not, and even if the ones he's using, that's
he's
supposed to be
one of the most powerful people on the planet.
But ones that he's supposed to be, that he is using prescription-wise, that he's following a doctor's orders under that. Mm. But yes, he's one of the most consequential people to the planet, and that was one reason why I was attracted to that.
In this conversation, you did talk about Trump. And again, given his role, he's one of the most powerful people in the world, running X, who he is going to support, whether he donates, the meeting that he took at Mar-a-Lago is of huge consequence in the context of everything that he tweets. And here's part of the conversation you had with him about Trump.
You recently met with Donald Trump in Florida. What did you guys talk about?
I was at a breakfast at a friend's place, and Donald Trump came by. That's it.
What did you discuss?
Let's just say he did most of the talking.
See, definitely a pivot from Elon Musk. He definitely dodged that question. No denial. You can see him like you can see the expression on his face, like, what the fuck do I tell this guy? Like, And you gotta think of it from Elon Musk's perspective. Like, you're Elon Musk, he's Don Lemon. What the fuck explanation do you owe this twerp, really? But you know you can't be too rude to him because motherfuckers gonna say this, motherfuckers gonna say that. So he gave him a PR response and he did most of the talking. Bang. Now listen to what Don Lemon got to say in response to that shit.
Did he ask you for money?
He didn't.
Are you going to loan him money to help pay his legal bills?
I'm not paying his legal bills in any way, shape, or form.
Did he ask you for a donation?
No.
Are you leaning towards anyone?
No.
You're not leaning towards anyone because you've been very.
Let me say I'm leading.
The double ask on the question, you're not leading towards anyone. You might well say, sir, may I remind you that you're under oath. Get the fuck out of here, Don. I mean, like that whole series just slip, slip, slip. What do you mean? So you have nothing. You have no substantial evidence that you just assume because Donald Trump went there that he's about to finance his campaign or whatever. Based on what? Rank suspicion? That's bullshit. And then you want to conflate that with free speech? Like, bro, you just tried your shit on dog. On your little whatever the fuck you like on his platform. Bye. See ya. The fuck is the issue?
Away from Biden.
You're leaning.
The trademark laugh there, which, by the way, in the context of the contract is canceled 24 hours after that interview, it just shows there was a lot of back and forth and give and take. What did you take away from his comments on politics?
Well, he says he's not going to endorse anyone now, but he may do it later. He says he's not going to give money to anyone.
Yeah, he also might eat eggs Benedict for breakfast, then eat a grapefruit tomorrow, then he might skip breakfast altogether. Like, what the fuck, Don?
One now, but he may do it later. You never know with him. He may, be endorsing someone now on the platform.
Yeah, Elon Musk is
but what's interesting to me in all of that and all these questions that about what people are asking me, what I asked Elon, what happened, what did I do?
Yep.
During the course of that interview, I never raised my voice. I told him, I think this is important for people to hear, especially considering how the type of discourse that we're having in the country right now. And he supposedly says this is a public square for all. Maybe we're learning that a public square should not be privately owned by someone who doesn't think that there should be any moderation on that platform. So it was interesting because at the end, I could tell that he was upset and he was uncomfortable. It was tense, and I said, listen, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable.
Yes,
As a matter of fact, I would go and have a beer and hash these things out. You and I do not disagree. You and I do not agree on much.
Yeah.
But I will fight for your right to be able to say what you want to say. That's what freedom of speech means to me.
Oh, yeah. Don Lemon, the fucking patriot. Get the fuck out of here, man. That shit's so milky. That shit's so, what they say, milk toast. That's what the fuck that is right there. Like, I will fight for your free speech. And even if I don't like what you have to say, then why are you interviewing this man? Like, why are you asking him these questions? Like, you tried to shit on the person who platform you was on. Then when he canceled your deal, even if you violate my free speech, I'm still not going to violate yours. Piss off. Eat a dick. Nobody's trying to hear that shit, man. Don Lemon is mentally insane, okay? I don't know if this dude is like schizophrenic. I don't know if he been eating too many Vicodins or whatever the fuck. I don't know what the fuck he got going on. But this guy's unhinged. He's mad. And he needs to take his crazy pills before he fucking does another stupid ass interview that nobody gives a shit about. Everybody, even the comment section. Let's look at some comments on this shit, bro. Something I haven't done in a while, but I had to check the comments just to make sure it was other sane people watching this shit. Blow this shit up. There we go. He really went back to CNN to do this. Don Lemon has gotten so good at gotcha interviews, he doesn't know how to talk to a person without trying to catch them in something controversial. The irony of trying to interview your new boss with gotcha questions, the boss who is supporting your new career on a new platform. Didn't CNN also fire Don Lemon? He canceled the deal, but that doesn't mean Don cannot be on the platform. Please release the full 90-minute hit job interview so that the world can see who Don Lemon really is. That part. CNN fired Don and then brought him back to explain why he was fired from his new job on the first day. He really is a lemon. Elon figured out real quick Lemon is a terrible investment and the show would be garbage. Way to ruin what little career opportunities you may have had. People don't like snake-like behaviors. Yep, the age of long-form interviews has really opened my eyes to the agendas of outlets to show 10-second clips. Yeah, and that's kind of what did it. Like, at the beginning, I was like, I might have been like 60-40 on this shit, 70-30. But like once I seen them same little regurgitated ass clips, like they showed us less than 30 seconds of a 90-minute interview. And you would think when it came down to Elon Musk, that shit was a whole chunk of the segment. All the clips about him being a proponent of free speech, like I could just see Don Lemon at the fucking CNN producer's office on his knees, like begging him, like, please let me talk about it, please. And the guy just sitting there in his chair, just like, oh, fuck, Don. For God's sake, Don. You keep coming on with this crazy shit. He's like, please, I'll do anything. Fuck, Don. Okay, all right, we'll give you 10 minutes, 10 fucking minutes, okay? But you better not screw this up. What's he go out there and do? Screw it up. Don Lemon is ridiculous, bro. That's a very, very broken and sad little man up there. That's the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Until next time, I'll holla.